Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to Own Drum. My name is Faryal and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the terms that are related to decolonization. So first of all, I'm going to look at what is colonization. It can be dated along a timeline. They were a set of events where there was domination, imposition, conquering and extracting on people and lands that weren't ruled by them and that were not their own. Colonizers brought in their own people to rule in these countries and administer a colonial rule. There was a start and an end date, and more often than not, there was a pushback that led to a decolonization movement where there was an independence of that country with an end date. Following on from that, there's colonialism. What is colonialism? Well, colonialism is about the complex power structures that have come from colonization. It's about the unequal dynamic between colonizer and colonized. And what colonialism does is it continues because it invades the mental and spiritual as well as knowledge universes of people that were colonized. For example, the way that people know and the way that their gaze is often interrupted, destabilized, and replaced by the colonizers' way of knowing and their perspectives and gaze. Language, culture, and knowledge were destabilized, uprooted, and disconnected from. They were then replaced with the colonizers' language, culture, and knowledge. And this has had profound impacts that are still present today. So, as we're moving into what is present today, we're going to talk about coloniality. And what is coloniality? It's about the living legacies linked to colonialism that are still present today in structural inequalities, bias, and discrimination. The impacts are still visible and are continuing. The Latin American school of thought, using the theories from Quijano, have coined the term the colonial matrix of power. And what this colonial matrix of power is talking about are the different systems that have enabled the colonial ways of having a Eurocentric power domination to persist and exist today. There are three systems. The first system is the system of hierarchies, and this is basically reinforcing the justification of racial domination around the classification of race to justify slavery and colonization. We spoke about that briefly in the video in Liverpool on slavery. Now, what this was doing with this hierarchy of some races being seen as superior, some as inferior, that it was making it universal, that there was a race connotation and relation to do with colonization. This made it so common sense, and it still persists today, that there are some races that are superior and inferior. And this was used as a tool, and it is still being used. And there's also a prominent component of gender domination in this system of hierarchy. Eugenics were used initially in this project of racial hierarchy construction from a British scientist in Birmingham. This notion that there were biologically superior and inferior races had no scientific background to it, but it was used in a way to justify colonization. Now, the second system in the colonial matrix of power, coined by Quijano, is around the system of knowledges. So this system of knowledge is around what way of knowing and knowledge production is seen as prioritized and best. What happened was the Eurocentric views and control of knowledge and knowledge production have taken control, and they have the most prominent place in the global construction of knowledge. This could mean that, for example, a research paper from Cambridge University could be deemed as far more valuable than a research paper from South Asia or West Africa. And this valuation and devaluation is part of this system of knowledge. It is also about our socialized and conditioned way of seeing the world with prescribed lenses. So it could be through our formal institutions, such as education, religion, media, or informal, such as family, communities. And these ways of knowing, or this gaze, has been controlled by the white gaze, by the Eurocentric or imperial gaze. And This is something that forms the colonial matrix of power. The third system in the colonial matrix of power is the system of culture. Now, this is combining the system of hierarchies, the system of knowledge, and also it's about an economic way of doing things and control. We can see this in the definition of what modernity is in this day and age. So, with capitalism, neoliberalism, rationality, and science, they can all be said to define what modernity is, and they are part of this system of culture and this power with a Eurocentric way of capital and labour being rooted in patriarchal white supremacist links to colonialism. Now, just to kind of summarize, coloniality is the approach that I am talking about because we need to do decoloniality. Coloniality is about the impacts and legacies of colonialism linked to colonization that we see today, creating unequal power structures, creating systems and ways of knowing and doing things in a world that is seen as modern in order to maintain the power, but it's very much linked to colonialism. Now, in order to disrupt coloniality and colonial approaches, we need to practice decoloniality. And this is about de-linking from colonial practices and thinkings and ways of knowing, introducing alternative narratives, alternative ways of knowing and doing. We are going to be looking at decolonial approaches in order to take the action of decolonization in the future videos. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye. Thank you.